My wife betrayed me with our awful neighbor while I was paralyzed. My entire world shattered when my own wife betrayed me with our horrible neighbor while I lay paralyzed, utterly helpless. What I endured was a waking nightmare of abuse and despair, but a miracle surgery gave me a second chance not just at life, but at a love I never dared to dream of. My name is Ethan John, and the last few years of my life have been a gut-wrenching roller coaster of unimaginable lows and breathtaking highs. It all began with a horrifying accident that stole my movement, my voice, and nearly my will to live. But that was only the prelude to the true horror. What followed was a brutal string of betrayals, abuse, and misery that almost completely consumed me. Yet, somehow I survived. More than that, I thrived. This is my story. One beautiful afternoon, I was out on my motorcycle enjoying the ride when a truck driver, completely oblivious to my existence, pulled out onto the highway. The collision was catastrophic. I remember nothing of the impact itself, just a blinding flash of metal, then absolute darkness. When I finally woke up in the hospital, I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I could barely even blink. The doctors called me lucky to be alive. Lucky. That word felt like a cruel, twisted joke. I was immobilized from the neck down, unable to do anything but breathe and blink. Swallowing was a struggle, and the humiliation of needing help with basic bodily functions, don't even get me started. The only silver lining, if you could even call it that, was the multi-million-dollar payout from the transportation firm. All my medical bills were covered, and I'd receive a monthly stipend that would support my wife, Laura, and me for the rest of our lives. Financially, we were secure. My disability payments, combined with Laura's paralegal job, meant money wasn't an issue. But money couldn't mend the brokenness inside me. After 6 agonizing months in the hospital, I was finally allowed to return home. I genuinely believed that being in familiar surroundings would somehow make things better. I was devastatingly wrong. That's when my life descended into an even darker abyss. "How's that?" my counselor asked gently, her eyes fixed on me. I felt a wave of shame wash over me. "I'm so ashamed," I managed to whisper, a tear tracing a path down my cheek. "I don't think I can even remember what happened in those 6 months." She nodded reassuringly. "That's okay, Ethan. Everything you say here is confidential. Remember, I'm here to help you heal." I nodded, took a shaky sip of water, and prepared myself to speak the unspeakable. "Let's start with your marriage," she prompted. "Tell me a little about that." I told her about Laura. We'd met in college, married right after graduation. I was only 25 when the accident stole everything. We'd been married for 3 blissful years. I was a mechanical engineer. She was a paralegal at a big downtown law firm. We could afford a spacious 3-bedroom apartment. Our original plan was to turn one into a nursery. The second was our shared office. But after the accident, the nursery became my room. It was the only one big enough to house all my medical equipment. For the first month or 2, Laura tried her best to care for me. But it was clear she simply wasn't equipped for the task, especially with the bathroom assistance. So, she sought help. Our neighbors, Greg and Callie Wallace, offered to assist in any way they could. At the time, I truly believed they were our friends. Greg, an attorney at Laura's firm, often drove her to work. Callie, a nurse at a nearby hospital, would check in on me occasionally just to make sure I was okay. She even helped us arrange for a home health nurse to be with me during the day. But after just a month, even with all that extra help, Laura still couldn't manage. "That's when Greg stepped in?" the counselor asked softly. "Yes," I replied, the bitterness thick in my throat. It began innocently enough, but I could see he had feelings for my wife. I'd hear them in the living room, whispering, then the unmistakable sounds of them making out on our couch. My wife. My couch. Then, he'd lead her into what used to be our master bedroom, our sanctuary, and they'd have sex. "But it didn't end there, did it?" the counselor pressed. I shook my head, tears blurring my vision. "No," I choked out. "Afterward, he would come into my room to taunt me." He described, in sickening detail, how he'd just been with my wife. I saw the counselor's face contort in horror. "Sorry," I mumbled. "Where was his wife during all of this?" she inquired. "Was she working?" "Yes," I said. "She often worked strange shifts. It wasn't unusual for her to be gone all night, working the graveyard." "I see," the counselor said. "Go on." I took a deep, shuddering breath before continuing. "About a month after that, I began, my voice barely a whisper. He came into my room while Laura was in the shower. I was so ashamed I couldn't even finish my statement. "Did he abuse you, Ethan?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm. I nodded, wiping fresh tears from my face. "Yes," I managed to say. "How often did this happen?" "I'm not sure," I replied. "Maybe a couple of times, every week for about 4 months. He even said he was going to invite some of his friends over to have fun with me." My blood ran cold just remembering it. "Did your wife know this was going on?" the counselor asked. I shrugged, helpless. "I don't know. She was never present when it happened. She'd always come by later and say how great it was to have people like Greg to look after me. I'll never forget the day he wheeled in that blasted monitor and installed it on my dresser. He hooked it up to a camera, and he made me watch. He made me watch him screw my wife. Laura actually thought it was great that he brought it in. When did the abuse stop? The counselor asked. The day Dr. Victor stopped over to see me, I answered, remembering that day with vivid clarity. Just hours after Greg had abused me, Laura led Dr. Victor and my attorney, Jacob Harrison, into my room. Dr. Victor was an older, slightly shorter, balding man with a distinct German accent. He introduced himself and his assistant, who carried a tablet. Ethan, I'm Dr. Franklin Victor, and I'm here to discuss a possible treatment for your condition. He looked at Laura, his gaze firm. I'll take care of it from here, Missy, he explained. Please wait in the other room. She left, but I caught a flicker of concern on her face. He then turned back to me, pulled up a chair, and sat down. Now, Ethan, allow me to explain. He looked me straight in the eyes. I manage a high-end research facility on Lake Arrowhead. We've been conducting revolutionary research on 3D bone restoration and nerve healing implants. I believe your situation is tailor-made for us. He consulted my medical records. I know how much damage you've sustained. I believe we can help you regain most, if not all, of your physical ability. Is this something you might be interested in? Please blink once to confirm and twice to deny. What else could I possibly say to an offer like that? Of course, I blinked once. Good, he replied with a smile. Now, you must understand, this is all experimental. But we have received approval for human testing, thanks to external grants. It will cost you nothing. That was fantastic news, but the experimental part made me apprehensive. I know you're probably concerned about this being experimental, he continued, as if reading my mind. Don't be concerned about that. Even if the operation fails, you will not be any worse off than you are today. But I feel you are a good candidate, and I'm confident that everything will be all right. In fact, if we're as successful as I expect, you'll be stronger than you were before the accident. That gave me a profound surge of hope. I listened intently as he described the operation. Essentially, all my damaged vertebrae would be replaced with new ones, composed of a composite material stronger than the originals. These new vertebrae would be created using a 3D printer and data from my own body, perfect replicas, only stronger. Additionally, he would insert tiny electrical implants to help mend the injured nerves. The operation would take 3 to 4 hours, and the recovery period could be several days, depending on how quickly I healed. Dr. Victor also revealed that he had already evaluated my data and started the process of manufacturing the new bones. I hope you don't mind, he remarked. Initially, we wanted to explore if we could recreate the injured bone using data from your records. We chose to proceed with the surgery after determining that we could. Once I was strong enough, I could begin physical therapy, which might last a few weeks. So, is this something you would like to try? He asked. Blink once for yes or twice for no. Of course, I blinked once. He smiled, rubbing his hands together. Very good, he declared, motioning for his helper. Please let Mr. John read the agreement. The assistant held a tablet for me. When I finished, Dr. Victor asked again if I agreed, again instructing me to blink once. I did. Very well, he remarked, asking his aide to have me electronically sign using my thumbprint. Once that was completed, Jacob countersigned, confirming he had witnessed my approval. Are you ready to get started? Dr. Victor asked. Of course, I blinked once. He smiled. Let's get going, Greg. We have everything you'll need at our facilities. He directed his aide to take me out of the apartment and into a huge van waiting in the parking area. On our way out, Laura stopped us. Where are you going? She inquired, her voice edged with panic. Dr. Victor looked at her calmly. Your husband has agreed to a procedure that could help him get back on his feet. Where are you taking him? She pressed. How long will he be gone? How much will this cost? We are transporting him to my facility on Lake Arrowhead, the doctor stated. He may be gone for several weeks, depending on how well he responds to the treatment and rehabilitation. His doctor and lawyer are well aware of what is going on, and they have given their approval, as has your spouse. Cost is not a concern. Now, if you don't mind, let's get started. Wait, I haven't seen any agreement, and I don't even know what's going to happen, she protested. He doesn't need your approval, Mrs. John, Jacob said, stepping forward. He is crippled, not incompetent. Everything was explained to him, and he gave his permission. You want your husband to get healthy, right? Yes, of course I do, she replied, a hint of shame in her voice. Can I at least come see him? Perhaps after the procedure, when he's up to having visitors, you can come, the doctor suggested. Otherwise, you should probably stay right here for now. We will be in touch. Perhaps now is a good moment to say farewell and wish your husband well. Laura moved in front of me and kissed me on the lips. Get well, honey. Let me know when I can come to see you, okay? Of course, I couldn't say anything, but I felt a burning rage inside. Dr. Victor and his aide rolled me out to the van. Once I was inside, the helper took the wheel, and we were on our way. I could see Laura standing in the parking lot, watching us depart. I had no idea what she was thinking, but I felt an overwhelming sense of relief, like I'd just been freed from a hostage situation. A few hours later, we arrived at the facility. I was led into a very lovely room where many nurses began prepping me. "I hope you don't mind, Ethan, but I thought it best to get started right away," Dr. Victor remarked. He turned to the nurses. "Once you have him prepared, please bring him to the operating room." "Yes, Dr. Victor," one of the nurses replied. "Okay, Ethan, I will leave you in the capable hands of your nurses, and I'll see you in the OR," he said before leaving. Soon, they had me undressed, bathed, and dressed in a robe that revealed my back. They put me on a stretcher and transported me to the operating room, where 3 extremely large orderlies carefully scooped me up and laid me face down on the table. The anesthesiologist performed his duties, and the last thing I heard before drifting off was Dr. Victor saying, "Oh my." I had no idea what he was referring to. I awoke still face down, but this time I was in some sort of device that kept me completely immobilized. I had a tube down my mouth and 4 implanted into my arm and a blood pressure cuff on my right arm. Suddenly, the device rotated, and I found myself looking up at Dr. Victor. "You're awake," he stated. "Good. You'll be pleased to hear that the operation went smoothly. We'll have to keep you motionless for a few days to ensure proper healing. After all, we had to do a lot of replacing." He paused. "You may have tingling or itching in your back. This is normal. That means the implants are performing their function. Both the nurses and I will keep a careful eye on you. Don't be scared. The apparatus you're in will rotate your body periodically. Just try to relax for now, okay? We'll talk in a few days." After that, he checked my vital signs, gave the nurses some instructions, and left. Relax. What else was I going to do? He was correct about one thing. I did feel a tingling sensation in the middle of my back, which irritated me to no end. I also felt itchy and wanted to scratch, but I couldn't. As unpleasant as it was actually refreshing to feel something for the first time in almost a year. That night, 2 nurses came in to wash me down. I could feel them washing my legs, my buttocks, and my back. I was more than startled. I was shocked. I could really feel what they were doing. They rolled over the bed and started washing me from the front. That's when I caught a good look at them. They were both very young and gorgeous. One had shoulder-length blonde hair, while the other was a brunette. As they bathed me, I felt something different, something I hadn't felt in a very, very long time. I couldn't move my head, but I noticed a smile on their faces as they observed me. The blonde gazed at me. "Well, I'm no doctor, but it looks like something is working down here," she added with a smile. They giggled slightly but continued their work. They finished what they were doing and departed the room, but not before offering me some encouragement. I ended up being in the device for 4 days. The days were pretty much the same. Every morning, I had x-rays done, and nurses would massage my arms and legs. Later in the day, I received a thorough sponge bath. As the days passed, I became more and more aware of what was happening to me. On the 4th day, Dr. Victor came into my room and examined me attentively. He sat down next to me, pulled out a pin, and immediately inserted it in my calf. I felt something and made a noise. I couldn't say anything because I still had a tube in my throat. He stared at me. "Did you feel that?" he inquired. I blinked once and attempted to nod my head, but I couldn't because it was still strapped down. He smiled. "Very good," he said. He asked me to try moving my toes. I was surprised to learn that I could. Then he instructed me to move my fingers, and I did. "Outstanding," he said. He checked my x-rays thoroughly and summoned some nurses. "I think it's time we got Mr. John out of this contraption." They took the tube out of my throat, removed my catheter, reconnected all of the remaining tubes, and finally released me from the device. Then they carried me to a gurney and took me to my room, where they put me in a bed. Dr. Victor spoke with the nurses before sitting down next to me. "I can't tell you how pleased I am with your results," he told me. "We will need to start your physical therapy right away, and we will begin with some exercises you may do in your bed. I don't want to put too much pressure on your back right now." He inserted a cup with a straw into my mouth. "Take a drink." I did, and it felt incredible going down my throat. "Try to say something," he advised when I finished swallowing. "Wow," I muttered, my voice raspy and weak. He laughed and nodded his head. "That will do," he said. "How do you feel?" "Like a new man," I replied, my voice still feeble. I could feel my eyes beginning to water. This was the first time I'd been able to do or say anything since my accident. He grabbed a tissue and wiped my eyes. "I understand this is an extremely emotional moment for you, Ethan. For now, I want you to relax. Don't overdo it. Your back still has to heal, but the implants appear to be operating properly. I'm concerned that you've lost some muscle mass since the accident, so we'll set you up with a diet and exercise plan to assist you regain muscle function. Now, I'd like to present you to the staff members who will be looking after you." He waved his hand, and several young women entered the room. "I'm Emily, your nutritionist. Na will be your physical therapist," he explained, indicating a short-haired, muscular blonde who nodded once. "Rachel will be your day nurse," he announced, pointing to a tiny woman with short brown hair. "And this is Megan, your night nurse," he explained, gesturing to a taller, red-haired woman whose eyes twinkled as she smiled at me. "Nice to meet you," I said, a genuine smile forming on my face. "Now, if there is anything you need, please feel free to let us know," the doctor remarked. "We all live here at the facility, so we're available 24 hours a day." He motioned for the women to leave the room briefly before returning to me. "Ethan, I need to talk to you about something. This is a difficult subject, so please let me know if you feel uncomfortable." "I'm curious," I stated. "I detected a good degree of rectal damage when we began the surgery on you. I also collected samples of what I found in that region. I'm not here to condemn, but I was wondering." "No," I murmured, feeling a fresh wave of shame wash over me. "I see," he replied. "So you were abused." Tears started to pour down my cheeks. "Yes, I was able to get out." He gently cleaned my face before speaking again. "You are aware that I have an obligation to disclose this to the authorities. In this state, abusing a disabled person is a felony as well as a hate crime. I collected samples of what I discovered, and the lab is conducting an analysis that includes DNA. Do you know who did this to you?" "Yes," I said gently. "Was your wife involved?" he inquired. "I do not know. She was never present when he did it." "I see," he replied. "Are you willing to name the person who did this to you?" I nodded my head. "Yes," I informed him. "Good. I will call the authorities once we have completed the analysis. In the interim, I'll connect you with a counselor." "Thanks," I replied. "You are welcome. Now, shall we focus on getting you back on your feet?" They fitted a contraption to the head of my enormous bed that allowed me to lift weights while lying down, but Dr. Victor didn't want me to use it right away. For the first week, they simply had me do hand exercises and brought in a machine to perform leg workouts. Na proved to be quite the therapist. As she yelled for cadence, I pushed with one foot and then the other. "Schnell! Schneller!" she retorted in German, and I strained to keep up. I couldn't help but notice her accent was much stronger than Dr. Victor's. She would have made an excellent drill sergeant, I thought, as she urged me to move faster. "Gut!" she exclaimed. "We'll feed you some protein to get your muscles back in condition. Every Fräulein in town will be after you, and probably a frustrated Hausfrau or two," she said with a wicked giggle. Weeks passed quickly. Na had me standing up in no time. At first, she made me walk on a treadmill, then she made me work with weights. Emily put me on a high-protein and fiber diet, and I started to observe my muscle mass returning to normal. Meanwhile, the authorities were preparing a case against Greg and Laura. Jacob believed it was prudent to keep the divorce papers until she was arrested. Agent Cole and Davis returned several times with state prosecutors, seeking more comprehensive information from me about the assaults. They informed me that the analysis confirmed that Dr. Victor had retrieved Greg's DNA from me. Jacob also hired a private investigator to acquire evidence of their adultery. It wasn't tough, because the two of them were very open about their romance. Greg's wife, Callie, appeared to be unaware of their actions, as she worked nights when they messed around and slept during the day when they were at work. After gathering proof and completing the paperwork, Jacob came out to review it with me. He intended to sue for divorce on grounds of adultery, neglect, and cruelty. He had lots of images, videos, and audio evidence to back up his claim. I didn't want to hear or see what they had done, especially because I'd seen and heard enough about them to last a lifetime. He also had papers against Greg, and intended to sue the firm they worked for, because Laura was technically his subordinate and Greg had plainly broken company policy. Furthermore, he intended to denounce Greg to the State Bar Organization and had papers prepared accusing him of multiple ethics violations. I couldn't help but notice that Laura never called the facility or came out to see how I was doing. Apparently, she and Greg were too busy screwing around to notice me. Oh well, I figured this too would pass. And it did. After 2 months, the authorities raided the firm and detained them. Jacob's process server was also present, delivering the paperwork to all parties involved. My lawyer even contacted the media, which obtained footage of the 2 cheaters being placed in the back of police cruisers. Shocked by the charges and evidence we had against Greg, the business acted fast and settled with Jacob for the majority of what we requested. They also fired both of them and reported Greg to the State Bar. Callie learned of the arrest that day, when Greg called her from the county prison, telling her he was in jail and needed her to be in court for his arraignment, so she could post bail. Agent Cole and Davis met with Dr. Victor, and the 3 of them took me to the courthouse for my arraignment. Callie noticed me as I was brought in for the hearing and ran up to me. "How is he?" she questioned Dr. Victor. I looked up at her. "Better," I replied, seeing her expression. It had been a year since she last heard me talk. "Haven't you heard? Your husband has abused me on several occasions during the last 4 months. At the same time, he has been banging Laura." "You did not know?" "Oh my God!" she exclaimed, her face a mask of shock and horror. "I did not know, Ethan. Please believe me, I had no idea what was happening. I've also filed for divorce from Laura, and I'm suing Greg for alienation of affection. If you like, I may offer you my attorney's name in case you decide to file for divorce." "Damn right I'm divorcing the son of a," she explained, her voice cracking. We entered the courthouse and saw the sheriffs bring Greg and Laura in, both dressed in orange jumpsuits with their wrists and feet shackled and joined to another chain around their waists. They both looked terrible. The state prosecutor requested that both be remanded without bail, citing Greg's potential flight risk and a restraining order against Laura. He also informed the judge that I was going through medical treatment and had filed for divorce. The prosecutor expressed anxiety that Greg would physically retaliate against me. The judge reviewed the documentation in front of him and agreed, ordering them both imprisoned without bail until the hearing, which he scheduled for the following week. As they took Greg and Laura out, she noticed me seated in the back of the courtroom. Her eyes widened as I raised one hand, middle finger out. Kelly caught up to me after Agent Cole and Davis rolled me out of court. She halted them and knelt down to speak with me. "Ethan, I'm really sorry about everything. I honestly didn't know." "That's all right, Callie," I said. "How long are you going to be gone?" she inquired. I shrugged my shoulders. "I don't know," I replied. "Perhaps a couple more weeks. They actually did a great job. I can even walk around now." "That's great. Please stay in touch and let me know how you're doing." "I will, Callie," I said. "We really need to go now, miss," Agent Cole stated. Callie nodded and stood up. "I understand. Take care of yourself, Ethan," she said. "Thanks, Callie," I replied as Agent Cole wheeled me to the van. When we returned to the facility, I was escorted to the physical therapy room where Na was waiting for me. "About time you showed up," she remarked. "Time to begin." She pushed me through my paces and even gave me extra workouts to compensate for being late. I was sore when she finished with me, but I felt amazing. Megan stayed after dinner to check my vitals and complete her papers. When she was finished, she approached the bed, made sure I was comfortable, sat down, and looked at me for a few moments. Something appeared to be bothering her. "Is everything okay?" I remarked. "You seem to be thinking about something." "I was just wondering about something," she explained. "Do you find me attractive?" she inquired, her voice shy. "Absolutely," I blurted out. "I think you're a wonderful girl and an excellent nurse." "Why?" "It's just you haven't made a pass at me the entire time you've been here. I was wondering if I had done anything to anger you, or if you didn't think me attractive." I smiled at her before replying. "I'm actually very attracted to you, I told you. It's simply that for one thing, I'm still married. And secondly, I'm relearning how to move around. I haven't been able to speak for a year. Besides, how about your other patients?" "You're my only patient," she explained quietly. "Dr. Victor is very particular about who he assigns to the night shift." "I see. So, in addition to being a medical genius and a miracle worker, Dr. Victor is also a matchmaker." She laughed at that. "It has happened before," she added. "Well, Megan, I tend to have a soft spot for shy, attractive redheads, and I'm getting divorced, so there's that." She grinned broadly, and her eyes twinkled. "Would it be okay if I kissed you goodnight?" she inquired. "Definitely," I said. She leaned in and softly kissed me. After a second, the delicate kiss evolved into something more sensual, our tongues battling in one another's lips. When she broke the kiss, I felt something profound shift within me. "I am here for you all night, every night. If you ever need anything, call me, okay? I know you're not ready to make love, but I'd love to just spend time with you," Megan murmured quietly. "I will. I promise," I replied. She smiled and softly exited the room. I fell asleep thinking about what she said, with images of red-headed angels dancing through my mind all night. You know, at this point, my life was still a whirlwind of emotion, but a new chapter was clearly beginning. If you're finding the story as unbelievable as I lived it, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You won't want to miss what else is coming. The next several days sped by, with Na working me even harder. I discovered that I could walk many miles on the treadmill, and my muscles had improved to the point where I could bench press more weight than ever before. The daily x-rays revealed that my replacement vertebrae were performing even better than Dr. Victor had projected, with the implants repairing nearly all of the damaged nerves. Megan kept me company most evenings by lying on the bed with me and watching television or simply talking. We would frequently share a bowl of popcorn while watching a movie and snuggle up together, the bowl on our lap. We always finished the evening with a goodnight kiss. I began to feel like a high school boy on a date with the most attractive girl in school. On top of that, I was falling hard for her. By the time Agent Cole and Davis arrived to pick me up for the main portion of Laura and Greg's trial, I no longer required the wheelchair, but Dr. Victor insisted that I use it nevertheless, to ensure that I did not injure myself. He accompanied me as well, not only as a witness to my injuries, but also to ensure that I returned home safely. I sat in my chair directly behind the prosecutor, with Dr. Victor beside me. Laura and Greg entered the room and sat down next to their defense counsel. They looked over at me before whispering to their attorney. Callie sat behind them, but she didn't seem happy. The jury, which had been chosen the day before, was seated, and the judge entered, with the bailiff issuing the order for everyone to stand. Using the rail in front of me for support, I slowly rose up and noted Greg and Laura's shocked expressions. When the judge entered, he gave the order to sit, and we all sat down. Dr. Victor calmly inquired if I was all right, and I nodded. "Yes." The judge began the hearings by reading the lengthy list of allegations, noting that Greg and Laura had both pleaded not guilty. After both sides had finished their opening comments, the court turned to the prosecution attorney, who called me as his first witness. Dr. Victor walked beside me to ensure I didn't collapse, and then returned to his seat. Greg and Laura exchanged stunned looks as I sat in the witness chair. They were even more surprised when I talked, after the bailiff had sworn me in to tell the truth. The prosecutor got up and walked up to me. He started by complimenting me on my improvement, then asked questions about my accident and the year I spent as a quadriplegic. I realized what he was doing by asking these questions. He was informing the jury about my physical state before I was treated at Dr. Victor's facility. The majority of the inquiries at this point were on my home life, how Laura tried but was unable to care for me, and how she was able to arrange for home health care experts to care for me during the day. And during any of this time, did your wife ever attempt to attend to your emotional needs? The prosecuting attorney questioned. No, sir, I said. Did she ever attempt to please you in any way? He asked her. No, she did not, I replied. Had she tried, would she have been successful? Wondered the man. I shook my head. No. I had no feeling from the neck down. I see, he replied. Did she ever hug you or kiss you or spend time with you, maybe reading a book or watching television? I considered my response carefully, but I couldn't recall her doing anything similar. She sometimes gave me a peck on the cheek, but that was about it, I replied. Did she participate in your care? He inquired. Did she feed you? Help bathe you? Perhaps help you in the bathroom? She tried at first, but she simply wasn't up to it. When did Mr. Wallace come into the picture? Almost from the beginning, I said. Were you friends before your accident? The prosecutor inquired. Yes, we were. They lived next door to us, and we had spent time together prior to my injury. I see. So you weren't surprised to see him in your apartment? No. I thought we were friendly. They frequently came over, and we would occasionally enjoy a beverage or dinner. You say he and your wife engaged in inappropriate activity in your apartment? The prosecution continued. When did that start? I'm not sure exactly. They could have been doing it while I was in the hospital, but I'm not sure. I have no confirmation of that. He frequently let her cry on his shoulder while they were both present. I believe it was approximately a month after I returned home from the hospital that I first heard them. Heard them? The prosecutor inquired. Yes. I could hear them kissing and moaning like they were making out. Laura wiped her eyes as I recounted what I had heard. Then I heard them in what used to be our bed being intimate. What happened then? The prosecutor inquired. He would enter my room and harass me when she was showering. One day he brought in a monitor in a box and said that it was so I could see a real man with my wife. Laura and the jurors let out a collective gasp. Your Honor, the prosecutor remarked as the bailiff brought out a trolley containing a large monitor and a black box into the courtroom. This is the monitor and box Mr. John is talking about. The box is a digital video recorder. The system also includes 2 video cameras, one in Mr. John's master bedroom and the other in his lodging room. We copied several hours of video footage captured by the device. The prosecutor turned back to face me. Is it your testimony that Mr. Wallace used this so you could watch him being intimate with your wife? Yes, I said gently. Laura looked at Greg, astonished. You liar, she exclaimed. The judge hammered the gavel. Order in the court, he declared. Laura calmed down, and the prosecutor resumed. Did you know that Mr. Wallace placed a camera in your room, as well as the master bedroom? My friend asked me. I shook my head. This was new to me. No, sir, I didn't. How did your wife react to this monitor? The prosecution inquired. She thought it was great that he got it for me. Apparently, she assumed it was so I could watch sports on TV. And was it about this time that the abuse against you began? The prosecutor inquired. Yes, it was, I answered. Please tell the court what would typically happen, the prosecution asked. After Greg and my wife had their fun, he would come into my room, turn the monitor off, then lift me up and abuse me. Is it in your testimony that he abused you? The prosecutor inquired. Yes, I said, embarrassed. Was your wife ever present when this occurred? The prosecutor inquired. Not that I'm aware of. He always appeared to finish around the time she was done showering. Afterward, Mom would come into my room and tell me how great it was to have a friend like Greg to look after me. How often did this happen? About 2 or 3 times a week, I answered. For how long? The prosecutor inquired. About 4 months. I heard members of the jury gasp, and when I looked around, I noticed several of them staring at Laura and Greg with venom in their eyes. Laura looked down at the table while Greg sat stoically, staring straight ahead. So you estimate that this happened about 35 times overall? The prosecutor inquired. About that, yes, I replied. Were you aware that Mr. Wallace recorded his time in your room? My friend asked me. I shook my head. No, I wasn't. The prosecutor looked at the jurors. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Wallace recorded himself abusing Mr. John 36 times on this device, he told them. He paused while the jurors took it in. With friends like that, who needs enemies? The prosecutor remarked rhetorically. The defense attorney objected, and the judge upheld his objection. That's all I have for this witness at this time, the prosecution stated. But I reserve the right to recall Mr. John to the stand. Very well, the judge replied. Your witness, Mr. Bradley, he informed the defense attorney. Bradley remained at his table, looking up at me before speaking. Mr. John, I am sorry to hear of your injuries, and I do hope you get better. Thank you, I replied. Just one thing, he added. At any time, did you ever indicate to Mr. Wallace that you did not approve of his alleged actions? I was unable to, I answered, my voice growing agitated. I was totally crippled at the time, and I couldn't even speak, so the answer is no. Then he asked, That's because I couldn't? I explained, growing agitated. You also failed to alert anyone about what transpired, including your wife. Isn't that correct? He questioned. Now I was upset. That's because I was completely disabled and couldn't. I roared and slammed my fist on the thick wood rail in front of me. For a moment, no one said or did anything. When I drew my hand away, I noticed that I had cracked the rail. I didn't realize I'd hit it so hard. I looked at the judge before speaking. I apologize. Your Honor, I lost my temper. Don't do it again, he told me. I nodded my head. That's all I have for this witness, Bradley added. The judge told me I may leave the stand, and Dr. Victor came to accompany me back to my seat. The prosecutor then summoned Dr. Victor to the stand. He informed the court of my injuries and the extent of my incapacity. He also said that he discovered severe damage, collected samples for evidence and testing, and then did everything he could to repair the harm. He also discussed the procedure he had conducted and my progress since then. And in your professional opinion, the only way for this damage to have been done is for Mr. John to have been abused. Is that right? The prosecutor inquired. Correct, Dr. Victor said. That would also explain the presence of evidence. Thank you, the prosecutor responded. He turned to face the jurors. Ladies and gentlemen, the state tested the sample. Further tests and DNA analysis have proven with 99.99% certainty that it belongs to the defendant, Greg Wallace. He turned to face the judge. That is all I have for this witness, Your Honor. Your witness, Mr. Bradley, the court stated. Thank you, Dr. Victor. You run the Arrowhead Institute of Advanced Medical Research, correct? Yes, that is correct, Dr. Victor replied. You engage in some pretty cutting-edge research there, do you not? Bradley asked. Sure, Dr. Victor replied, occasionally slipping into his native German. Bradley took out a piece of paper and started reading. Each of us has different protection mechanisms that assist us deal with harsh events. Sometimes we revert to an alternate version of ourselves, which could be regarded as an alter ego. The alter ego could present itself as a variety of ways. An otherwise calm, unassuming person may suddenly become noisy, arrogant, and domineering, for example. Those who are unfamiliar with that person's behavior will have a very different opinion of him or her. He read before returning his gaze to Dr. Victor. You also talk of an inner beast that is dormant within every one of us. According to your writings, you claim to have discovered a means to unleash the so-called beast to assist with a certain scenario. Is that correct? He questioned. I did write that, and yes, my research has found that to be the case, replied the doctor. Isn't it true that you once worked with Mr. Bill Dalton to help him discover his purported inner beast? Bradley explained that simply saying yes or no would suffice. I worked with Mr. Dalton, yes, Dr. Victor said. The exact nature of my work, however, is a matter of doctor-patient confidentiality. Is it not true that toward the end of his treatment, Mr. Dalton's house mysteriously blew up? Bradley asked. The prosecutor quickly protested. Irrelevant, Your Honor. Your Honor, Bradley explained. We all saw Mr. John's reaction. If you'll allow me, I believe there is a connection. I'll allow it for the time being, Mr. Bradley, the judge remarked. But I would appreciate it if you could make your point and move on. I will, Your Honor. Thank you, Bradley replied. He turned back to Dr. Victor. Are you aware of what happened to Mr. Dalton's home? Bradley asked. I remember seeing something about it on the news, Dr. Victor remarked. I also recall the police claiming that Mrs. Dalton and her live-in partner were manufacturing medicines with highly volatile materials. I don't see any relation to this situation. According to police reports, Mrs. Dalton was seen running out of the house screaming about a monster, Bradley recalled. Apparently a result of the drugs she and her lover were manufacturing, remarked Victor's doctor. Your Honor, this is absolutely irrelevant to the case before the court today, as Mr. Bradley is fully aware. I insist that this line of questioning be stopped, the prosecutor stated. I tend to agree, Mr. Bradley. I've been more than fair. Please move on. Very well, Your Honor. I have no further questions for this witness, Bradley stated. The judge dismissed Dr. Victor, and the case continued. The prosecutor summoned state agents who searched my residence. Both claimed they discovered what looked to be proof of abuse. Then he called home healthcare nurses who testified that they saw symptoms of physical abuse. They documented it in their records, but the home care facility never followed up, thus the reports fell through the bureaucratic cracks. I have one last piece of evidence, Your Honor, the prosecutor stated. With your permission, I would like to play a portion of video taken of the abuse against Mr. John. Very well, the judge replied. The prosecutor looked at the jurors. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to show you is shocking, he told them. I take no joy in this, but I believe it's necessary that you see for yourselves what Mr. John had to endure for months on end. He switched on the monitor and started playing the footage. The jury frowned as they saw Greg clearly abuse me. The prosecutor paused the video and enlarged the image. Ladies and gentlemen, let there be no doubt in your mind who is committing this heinous act to a man who once thought of him as a friend, he told the audience. After the jurors looked at the image for a few moments, tears streamed down my cheeks from shame again. The prosecutor paused the video. He stared at the stunned jurors. I rest my case, he stated with distaste. Mr. Bradley, you may present your case, the judge instructed. Once the prosecutor sat down, Bradley stood up and summoned Laura to the stand. Mrs. John, he asked, is it true that you had an affair with Mr. Wallace? Yes, it is, she replied calmly. Can you tell us why? He inquired. My husband, Ethan, was injured so badly, and I felt lost and hopeless, she told me. He was there when I needed someone to weep on. Yes, we had an affair, but it was nothing more. Were you aware of what Mr. Wallace did to your husband? Bradley asked. No, I wasn't. If you had known, would you have done anything to stop him? Bradley asked. Yes, I would have. Thank you, Mrs. John, that's it for now. Your witness, Mr. Foster, he remarked while sitting down. The prosecutor stood up and approached the monitor. He selected an image from the video that clearly showed both my face and Laura in the same frame. Mrs. John, he started, you testified that you were unaware your husband was being abused, is this correct? Yes. Look at his face in that video, the prosecutor added. The hurt and humiliation were clear to everybody who saw it. Do you expect this court to think that you could look at your husband of 3 years in that state and not notice something was wrong? It didn't cross my mind at the time, she told me. Before Mrs. Wallace brought healthcare workers into the home, did you ever once feed or clean your husband? The defense attorney said. I tried, but I wasn't very good at it, she stated. What happens afterward? Did you even try to help? No, she replied gently. And why was that? The prosecutor inquired. I do not know. I felt Greg was helping him, and I had no idea what to do. The truth is, you basically abandoned him, didn't you? Bradley responded to the prosecutor's query with an objection. I withdraw the question, Foster promptly said. You said your affair with Mr. Wallace was purely physical, correct? That's right, she replied. And you claimed in your testimony that you still love your husband, right? Yes, she answered. Foster returned to his table, pulling out an audio recorder and a document from his briefcase. He walked back to the bench. Your Honor, this is a written report done by Samuel Jenkins, a private investigator hired by Mr. John's attorney, he stated, presenting the paper to the judge. A copy of this report and the audio were provided to Mr. Bradley, as evidenced by the accompanying affidavit. The report refers to an audio recording of a conversation between the defendants while out on a dinner date shortly after Mr. John was admitted to Arrowhead. With your permission, I'd like to play the audio for the jury. Very well, the judge replied. Foster activated the recording button, and Laura and Greg's chat could be heard in court. So, have you given any thought to what we discussed? Greg's voice is heard on the recording. I have, and I admit I'm intrigued, Laura replied. Well, what do you think? I must admit, the last few months with you have been fantastic, she remarked in the recording. Much better than my life with Ethan has ever been. Are you sure we can pull this off? Of course, Greg replied. I'm a lawyer, you know. I can have a judge do whatever I want. It would be easy to declare Ethan a state ward. He can't care for himself, and you're clearly not trained to do so. Frankly, I can't stomach the idea of it, she told me. I mean, feeding him like a baby, wiping his drool, changing his diaper, and cleaning his buttocks? Yuck. It makes me nauseous just to think about it. I need a man, a whole man, a genuine man like you. You and I both know this Victor guy won't be able to do anything for him, Greg told him. Every doctor stated he'd be an invalid for the rest of his life. Once he is judged incompetent, we may seize his massive settlement and live like kings in Costa Rica or somewhere else. Wouldn't that be preferable to staying here and wiping the excrement off little Timmy? Yeah, it would, she answered. What about Callie, though? Laura asked. Things haven't been great between us for a long time, Greg told me. She wants children, but I don't, and I'm tired of her continual pestering. I just want to be sure you won't go soft on me and tell me you still love him when we start dating. That will not happen. I love only you. The prosecutor paused the recording and looked at Laura. I felt like my heart had been ripped out all over again. So you and your lover intended to declare your spouse incompetent so that you could take his settlement money and go to Costa Rica? So, were you telling the truth to your sweetheart or in court? Which is it, Mrs. John? Please tell me now, so that I can decide whether or not to prosecute you with perjury. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she was forced to openly confront her own deception. I don't know, she exclaimed. I still loved him, but I loved Greg too. She looked over at me. Please, Ethan, forgive me. I shook my head, turning away from her. Foster glanced at her with disgust. I'm done with this witness, he stated before walking away. The court excused her, and Bradley summoned Greg to the stand. So, Mr. Wallace, Bradley said when Greg was sworn in, we've seen video of you and Mr. John. There is no denying what we all witnessed. I only have one question. Did Mr. John ever tell you that he didn't approve of your actions? Not once, Greg answered with a snarl. Thank you, Bradley replied, turning away. Your witness, he informed Foster, who was already on his feet. Mr. Wallace, he said, you graduated from Harvard Law School, did you not? Yes, I did, Greg announced happily. And you graduated near the top of your class, didn't you? I did. In fact, you're highly regarded as a top litigator in your firm. Foster told me. Bradley objected. Relevance, Your Honor. Your Honor, I intend to show that Mr. Wallace not only knows the law, but he knew that Mr. John could not possibly have given consent. Foster told you. You go ahead, Mr. Foster, the judge instructed. Thank you. He turned back to Greg. You knew that Mr. John was disabled, didn't you? Greg sighed and said nothing. Didn't you? Foster bellowed. Yes, I knew, Greg said. And you knew that the law in the state says persons with Mr. John's disabilities are incapable of giving consent, didn't you? Foster inquired. Yes, I guess so, Greg said. Foster glanced at him with hatred for a few moments before shaking his head. I'm finished with this witness, Foster replied, walking away. Any more witnesses, Mr. Bradley? The court inquired. Bradley shakes his head. No, Your Honor. I rest my case. Very well, we'll take 15 minutes and reconvene to hear closing arguments. The judge pounded his gavel, and everyone exited the courtroom. Dr. Victor gave me a cup of water. How are you holding up? He inquired. As I sipped my water, I'll be okay, I assured him. He patted my shoulder. Good. Foster looked to check how I was doing. I'm sorry you had to relive all of that, he said. I believe we have made an impression on the jurors. We will see. This is nearly over, Ethan. Remain patient. Thanks, I replied. Soon the break was finished, and everyone returned to the courtroom. Greg, Laura, and Mr. Bradley appeared less assured than they had earlier in the day. Callie looked angry enough to spit nails. This was the first time she'd heard much about it. When the judge returned, the bailiff directed everyone to stand. All right, Mr. Bradley, present your closing statement, the court said. Bradley stood forward to face the jury. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a difficult case for all of us, and contrary to popular belief, we hope Mr. John recovers. We have stipulated that the alleged abuse occurred with Mr. John. We're not debating that point. But this is a case about consent, or lack thereof. Mr. John confessed under oath that he never told my client that he did not provide approval. Mrs. John was unaware that anything was amiss, and she had no idea the alleged abuse had occurred. As a result, you are forced to conclude that my clients are not guilty. Thank you. He took a seat. The judge motioned for Foster to make his final statements. On his way, Foster turned on the monitor, which displayed the image of Greg abusing me. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you for your participation today. I realize this has been really difficult for all of you. The defense has attempted to avoid the issue by stating that Mr. John never stated that he did not consent to what was being done to him. There's only one problem. Mr. John is crippled. He could not speak or defend himself. According to the law in this state, people with disabilities like his are unable to give or deny consent. Mr. Bradley is aware of this, as is the defendant, Greg Wallace, who is a Harvard Law School graduate. They have admitted to the activities against Mr. John. You've seen the video and heard the audio. You know the defendant's plan to fraudulently declare Mr. John incapable in order to grab what was rightfully his and depart the country. Wallace took Mr. John's wife with the intention of taking Mr. John's money while leaving his own wife high and dry. You have heard the defendant's plan and scheme against Mr. John. The defense has not raised any doubts about what happened. The defendant Wallace abused Mr. John 36 times, and Mrs. John did nothing to stop it. In this state, abuse and willful neglect of a disabled person is considered a hate crime. That is why I am advocating for the highest punishment permitted by law. The state has done its part. Now I ask that you do yours and give Mr. John the justice he deserves. Thank you. After Foster had taken his seat, the judge issued his orders to the jury and sent them off to deliberate. He then ordered the rest of the court to recess. Dr. Victor and I entered the corridor where Jacob waited. I just wanted to let you know that Laura signed the divorce papers, he told me. She isn't contesting anything. I just came back from filing them. The judge will sign off on them in a day or two, and you will be free in 6 months. Free? I asked cynically. Why don't I feel free then? You've been through a lot, young man, Dr. Victor explained. Trust me, it'll get better. I hope so. And I think I know just the person who can help you feel better, the doctor added with a knowing smile. You mean Megan? I inquired. Dr. Victor grinned and nodded. Ja, he answered. She really likes you, you know. It was my turn to smile. I like her too. A lot. Good, Dr. Victor replied. Just be careful though. I don't want you to have sex for at least another 6 to 8 weeks. I don't want you to put too much strain on your back just yet, he said with a smile. By the way, I said, what's up with that rail? How did I crack that thing? I barely slapped it. Must be the supplements we've been giving you, he said with a joke. That and Na's physical therapy. Nothing to do with that inner beast stuff, I said. He laughed. No, not at all. That's an entirely separate project. Besides, I would not recommend it for you, especially with the custom-built vertebrae we've installed. We talked for a little longer, and after about an hour, Foster poked his head into the corridor. Jury's back in already? I asked. He nodded his head. That was fast. Yeah, it was, Foster replied. Hopefully that's good news for us. We went through the motions again as everyone returned to the courtroom. The bailiff directed us all to stand as the judge entered, and we all took our seats on his signal. The judge inquired, has the jury reached a decision? We have, the jury foreman said. The bailiff received the paperwork from the foreman and delivered it to the judge. After reading it to himself, he told Laura and Greg to stand up. Bradley stood with them. How do you find the charges against defendant Greg Wallace? The judge inquired. We find the defendant, Greg Wallace, guilty on all charges, the foreman stated. And on the charges against defendant Laura John, how do you find? We find the defendant, Laura John, not guilty on the charge of accessory to abuse of a disabled person, Your Honor, and guilty on all the other charges, said the deputy district attorney. The judge nodded his head. Very well, he responded, facing the defendants. He poured his rage on them. I've seen and heard a lot in this courtroom over the years, but nothing as awful and egregious as what I observed here today. The two of you make me sick to my stomach. You have not only mocked your marriages, but also the legal profession. That is why I am handing you the maximum penalty permitted by law. Mr. Wallace, as a well-trained lawyer and court official, your actions disgust me beyond words. At the prosecutor's request, I am sentencing you to at least 450 years of hard labor. That's 12 years for each of the 36 charges of maltreatment, plus an additional 20 years for committing a hate crime. I additionally added 8 years for conspiracy to conduct fraud. Mrs. John, I disagree with the jury's not guilty finding personally. I don't understand how anyone with more than 2 brain cells could be unaware that your husband was being abused. Nonetheless, I shall follow the verdict. I am, however, giving you the maximum punishment for criminal negligence and conspiracy to conduct fraud, which is 15 years in jail under state rules, making you available for parole in 10 years. He raised his gavel. But, spoke the judge. Your Honor, he replied. Mrs. John has just informed me that divorce papers have been filed, and she wishes to speak with Mr. John before being taken into custody. Is that acceptable with you, Mr. John? I can give her a couple of minutes, the judge explained. Your Honor, that's fine, I said. The judge nodded and remarked, very well. He slammed his gavel, declaring the court dismissed. Laura approached me as deputies prepared to take Greg away. You look good, she replied. Thank you, I replied. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry for everything. I honestly had no idea what he was doing to you. I would have done everything I could to stop it if I had known. I think you convinced the jury of that, I told them. I agree with the judge, however. I find it difficult to believe. You are not a foolish woman. At any rate, you'll have 15 years to consider. Was there anything else? Yes, she responded. I wanted you to know I signed the divorce papers, and I'm not going to fight you over it. That's what I heard, I informed her. Don't you want to know why it happened? She inquired. I shook my head. I really don't care, I told her. I'm sure it was all for greed and lust. You cheated me, plain and simple. The why really doesn't matter anymore. Do you think you could ever forgive me? She asked. Why is it all you cheating losers think you can come crawling and begging for forgiveness? I asked. You certainly didn't care about me when I needed you the most. To answer your question, no, I do not intend to ever forgive you. Instead, I'll do my best to forget you exist. Was there anything else? I know you won't believe me, but I do love you, she replied. I just wanted to tell you that before they take me to jail. You're correct, I don't believe you. But thank you for saying so. I suppose you should get moving. Those deputies don't seem happy over there. Okay, goodbye, Ethan, she replied. She walked away with tears in her eyes. At that moment, I had absolutely no feelings for her. As I stood up, Callie approached me. How are you doing, Ethan? You look better now than you have in a long time. Thanks, I'm doing a lot better now, thanks to Dr. Victor. I just wanted to apologize for what my loser, soon-to-be ex-husband did to you. I appreciate that, I told her. Did you get in touch with Jacob? Yes, I did. Greg's father insisted on a prenuptial agreement when we married, and it includes a very strict infidelity clause, so Jacob will have a field day with it. I'm glad to hear it, I said. If there's anything I can do to help, let me know. Thanks. I might need to borrow several copies of those videos from you. No problem, I responded. Whatever you need. I'll be gone a little longer, but I'm sure Jacob can make do with what he already has. One last thing, she added. I still have the key you gave me right after the accident. I'll clean up your apartment and remove Laura's belongings if you like. That would be a big help. Callie, thanks. Not a problem. Good luck, and I'll see you soon, she said, kissing me on the cheek. We watched as she departed. I couldn't believe Greg was so dumb to cheat on such a nice woman. Are you finished flirting with all the women? Dr. Victor inquired playfully. I'd like to get back to work if you don't mind. Works for me, I replied. But how are we going to get back? No problem, we'll take care of that for you, Agent Cole stated from behind. After all, we're the ones who brought you here. At Dr. Victor's insistence, I sat down in the wheelchair, and Cole drove me out to the car where we all climbed in. Actually, I was relieved to have the wheelchair. I'd been up and down much of the day and was feeling fatigued and achy. We returned to the facility, and Dr. Victor wheeled me into my room, where Megan waited for me. After supper, she helped me get ready for bed before going into the bathroom to change into her sleepwear, which was actually a long t-shirt. How are you feeling? She inquired as she slid into bed with me. Wiped out. It's been a long day, I explained. She kissed me and rested her head against my shoulder. Yes, it has, she replied. I realize it has been difficult, but it had to be done. Now you can start putting all of that behind you, and I'll be here to assist you in any way I can. Before I spoke, I took a long, heartfelt look at her face. I love you, Megan, I said without thinking. She smiled softly and kissed my lips. And I love you, Ethan, she added. She rested her head on my shoulder and draped an arm across my chest. I felt happier than I had been in a very, very long time. We soon fell asleep together. They exhausted me over the next 5 weeks. In drill instructor mode, encouraged me to go farther and quicker with each session. On top of that, I was seeing the counselor twice a week to help me overcome the trauma I had experienced the previous year. Every day, they took x-rays to determine the condition of my spine. Megan stayed every night in my bed, and we grew to know each other rather well. Finally, Dr. Victor said that I had recovered sufficiently to be sent home. By then, my body was in better shape than it had ever been, but the doctor told me to avoid strenuous exertion for another 3 weeks. He also scheduled me to come in twice a month for the following year, so they could check my back. I was eager to get home, but I also knew I'd miss Megan terribly. On the day I was supposed to leave, I wrote her a note in which I expressed my feelings for her. I also offered her to come visit me whenever she wanted. I finished the note as Dr. Victor entered my room in a wheelchair. I stared at him, puzzled. After all, I could already walk on my own. He shrugged his shoulders. Regulations, he stated. I understand. As I sat in the wheelchair, I wished I'd never have to use one again. He pushed me to the pickup location outside, and I glanced about while waiting for the Arrowhead van. Instead, I noticed a dark blue Toyota RAV4 pulling up. The driver's side door opened, revealing Megan, my red-headed angel of compassion. She came around to open the passenger door for me. Surprised, I stared at Dr. Victor. Megan has a new assignment, he announced with a smile. She'll be your live-in caretaker. That is, unless you have any objections. Absolutely not, I answered, smiling broadly. I shook his hand. Thank you, Dr. Victor, for everything. You're welcome, he replied with a smile. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. He stared at Megan. Please take care of our boy, okay? I will, she replied with a smile. After assisting me inside, she got into the automobile. I noticed numerous luggage had been stuffed into the back of the car. So, how long are you going to be assigned to me? I asked. It depends on how long you need me. How long do you think that will be? Conservative estimate. I would say at least 60 years, I responded. Is that okay with you? Darn straight it is, I replied. She kissed me on the lips before pulling away and heading home. When we arrived home, I marked the calendar with the day Dr. Victor indicated I could resume normal activities. As it turned out, that was the day after my divorce from Laura was finalized. Callie met and married a doctor 2 years after her divorce. I never visited Laura in prison, but I did understand that she was undergoing treatment. After 15 years, she was freed on parole and worked as a server at a truck stop cafe on the highway. Megan and I married around 6 months after my divorce was finalized, which was a good thing because she told me a few weeks after we returned from our honeymoon that we were expecting children. We had 2 more children after that and felt that was sufficient for the time being. Our love for one another remained strong, and when our youngest child departed for college, we celebrated with an around-the-world trip. Even after all these years, she remains my gorgeous, red-headed angel of mercy. My vertebrae strengthened, and it appeared that I was in better shape than I had ever been. The implants also worked, and all of the nerve damage I had sustained from the accident was reversed. Dr. Victor successfully repeated the operation multiple times over the next 10 years, and the treatment is now awaiting final approval. As I reflect on my life, I can't help but think of John Milton's quote, "Every cloud has a silver lining." Yes, I went through hell for a year after that truck hit me. It was my dark cloud. But what I have today is better than any silver lining. It's an entirely new sky, What do you think of my story? Have you ever had a moment in your life where something truly terrible led to something unexpectedly wonderful? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.